Hello everybody, Melissa here with TCP Crafts. Today we are going to make a Christmas grapevine design. So we haven't made a grapevine in a while, so I thought let's do something a little different than a deco mist wreath, and let's work on a grapevine today. So we are going to start first with just kind of creating the base of our grapevine. So I'm going to be using a couple different greenery bushes. So the first one we're going to start with is, I think this is called a Cypress bush. We do have these in the shop. The SKU is XX7979, and I will list the supplies in the description as I usually do. So we are going to take and we're going to pull this into two sections. So this pulls, and you're going to get two pieces. So we've got a smaller piece, and then we've got the longer piece. And I know I'm not going to need it this long, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it down just a little bit. We can cut it down more if we need to later. Okay, so I'm going to cut a couple of these up because I know we're going to need at least 3, maybe 4. So again, I'm just pulling this section here and splitting it into 2 pieces, cutting this one down a little bit. Now this bush here will not get seen that much. It's just going to basically be kind of to set our perimeter, and then we're going to have our frosted greens on top of it. Let's do 3. Okay, so we're going to have 3 longer pieces, and then we're going to have 3 shorter pieces. Let's start. Let me pull some of this paper off. Let's start and kind of get my placement. So I know I want one to kind of hang down this way. Let me get another longer piece. We're going to want one down and coming down like this. Our bow is going to be sitting up in this area, so around the 10-11 o'clock window. This is where our bow will sit. Let me find our longer piece, and I want this one to kind of hang down at the bottom. So kind of like a sort of like an S. So those would be where our bigger pieces are going to go. Now let's kind of place where we want our smaller pieces. So I want this kind of coming up at the top a little bit. And let's see, probably another one right up in there. Again, our bow is going to be right in this area. And then probably one sort of coming to the inside to kind of give some coverage like that. So I think this will be kind of our good starting point. So I'm going to go ahead and start dipping these in my glue pot. And just weaving it down into that grapevine. Spread the branches out a little bit. Now this one I want to kind of come at a direction where it's kind of going up to create some height. Same thing with this one. Okay. Now we're going to go, because our bow is here, everything from above the bow went this way. Now, since our bow will be here, all of the greenery will be going down. So I'm going to tuck this one in. Okay, this one is going to go kind of towards the center. So it's giving some coverage right in this area. And then our last piece, I gave it a little bit of a bend so that it's going to kind of hang down. There we go. So we've got our base built out. Now let's go to our second bush that we're going to use. So we're going to use this frosted bush right here. Has a few different types of leaves in it to give us a little bit of good extra texture. We're going to follow kind of the same pattern. We're just going to kind of fill in some of the spaces with this one. So this is going to sit right in this area right here. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this stem. Now these stems are very thick, so I'm going to have to use my stem cutter. I'm going to have to use my stem cutter to cut them down. Okay. So I'm going to put the first one right in between that first cypress and the second cypress. So right in between these two is where this first one is going to go. And I'm going to add some glue. Since it's in there pretty snug, I'm not going to pull it back out and dip it in my glue pot. I'll just add some glue. Okay, let's get the second one. We do have these in the shop as well. It's VS001. So again, I'm going to spread these branches out, shake hands, fluff them up. Got lots of good texture. And this one's going to go in between the next two cypress. So I'm going to cut it down. Okay, this one's going to go right in between like this, still giving us some height up at the top. Okay. So let me pull this one out. I'm going to add a little bit of glue. It is hung up on something in my glue pot. The glue pot is dirty, y'all. Dirty, dirty. Come on. I don't want to stick my fingers in there. It's hung up on something in there. Okay. Don't do this at home. Let me cut this. There we go. Okay, let's try this again. Dip it in my glue pot. We're going to go right down through the grapevine. Now we want to weave it in the grapevine. Don't go straight through the back, because then they'll be poking out here, and we don't want that to happen. So you just weave it through the actual grapevine. Okay, so now we have two nice big pieces right up the top. We're going to do the same thing down here. So we'll do one, let me spread it out, fluff it up. We're gonna have one in between these two, and then we'll have one in between this one. So we'll have 2 at the bottom. So let me cut this down. Okay. So we're gonna kind of have this one go right through and give it a little bit of a bend. Right in between these 2. You can see that right there. I'm gonna add a little bit of glue. Okay. And then our last one of those will go down at the bottom, or in between those bottom 2. Okay. So this one, let me cut this little string off. Again, let's open these up. Okay, and I am going to give this a little bit of a bend. And this is going to go in between these 2 cypress bushes at the bottom. Perfect. Let me add some glue to that. Okay, so this is what we have so far. We've created our base. So now I'm going to set this to the side. Let's make our bow. And then we're going to start filling it in with some other things. So let me get this out of the way so you guys can see the bow. I'm going to use my bow maker. And we are going to be making a rose gold grapevine wreath today. So I pulled in this really pretty velvet. We did have this in the shop. I'm not sure if we still do. X962340-34. So this is a little bit darker color, almost like a mauve. We're going to pull in that with a little bit of the lighter rose gold ribbon. So we're going to start, and I know I want pretty long tails. So I'm just kind of measuring how I want my tails. And I might even roller coaster the tail. So let's start with our short one first. And let's keep the ribbon together without cutting it in case we want to do a roller coaster. So I'm going to go with about a 10-inch tail for the top. We can trim it down if we need to once we get it on there. And I'm going to go about 7.5-inch loops. Going out to about 7.5. I'm going to twist. And let's do one more. Let's do 3 loops of each. Still at the 7.5. Okay, and I'm not going to cut this. I'm just going to leave it on there. And let's do the same thing with this one. gonna start with my shorter tail over there. This time I'm gonna go about 6.5 inches, twist, six and a half inches, and twist, and 6.5 inches, and then we're just going to scrunch it down. So we have 3 loops of each. Okay, now I'm going to get my zip tie. And just slide it up under that center. Pull it up off my bow maker. I'm gonna get rid of that. We don't need that anymore. Now I'm gonna take my other zip tie, slide it through the back. Okay. And before I make these too tight, I just want to kind of fluff my loops up and get my tails going the right way, and then we'll really make it tight. Okay. So now we have our pretty bow with 3 loops on each. This is going to set right here, and then we're going to fill in this section around this bow, so you won't see all that grapevine by the time we get done. And then I'm thinking I want to take this ribbon and create a loop. Let me just think. Let me see. Thinking we create a loop. And then have our tails hang down. Yes, I think I like that. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this ribbon because I want to use a strip. I want to use a strip of the darker pink to clean up our center on our bow. So let me just cut a little piece of this, and I'm just going to take it and cut it in half. So just cut a little strip in half. And I'm just going to fold it onto itself. And I'm going to take our bow and just tie this around the center just to make it nice and pretty, so it hides that zip tie. So let me tie this off. And then I'm going to cut away the excess. Okay. All right, now let's get our bow. Now, hindsight, I probably, if I would have brought the more supplies in, I probably would have done, and I probably would have taken one more of the VS001s. Put one here and one here just to kind of give some more coverage, but I only brought the 3, so, or the 4, however many it was. So we're just going to make it work. We're going to be filling it in with other things, so it'll be fine. You're not going to see it, but it would have just given it a little bit more coverage. So I'm going to take and just run this zip tie through the grapevine. I'm I'm just running it through a couple of these branches, making sure it gets a good hold. Okay. So we'll worry about fluffing all our bow out later. We're going to be adding stuff behind it, so it's going to get messed up anyway. Let me cut the little part of the zip tie off. Okay. So we've got our little short tails. We'll dovetail those in a minute. Let's get our tails that we're going to roller coaster. We're going to take and create a loop. We want it you don't want to do it straight. You want to create some movement. So we're just going to kind of find a spot in here just to kind of tie it. We're going to end up tying it, I think, to one of these stems. Let's see if I can get up under there. So I'm just weaving this under through the grapevine, making sure I've kept a good loop. There we go. And tying that off. And then now we have our tail. We could actually even maybe do another loop. Let me see. I think I like that. We're gonna do 2 loops. So I'm gonna take another zip tie right under the bottom, right at the very bottom. I'm gonna run it through there. Okay, and then I'm gonna take this ribbon, pinch it, make sure we have a nice good loop, and tie it off. So now we've got sort of 2 loops. Let me cut the zip tie. Okay. Now I'm just gonna roll this ribbon, this double-sided ribbon up. I don't want to cut it because it's velvet. Sometimes it'll fray a little weird. It'll start coming undone. So I'm just gonna add a little bit of glue, and I've just turned it up, and I'll show you on this one up here. You probably can't see it. Okay, and then the other one I will go ahead and dovetail. I'm gonna do that again. There we go. Okay, so let me show you on this one. So I'm just gonna take, it is double-sided, so the back is gold. I'm just gonna kind of bend it up just a little bit and add just a tiny dab of glue just to hold that, keep it from coming undone. Okay, and then I will take this one and we will go ahead and dovetail it. So we're just gonna put the ends together and cut at a diagonal. There we go. So this is what we have so far. Okay. Now let's add some filler around this bow. So I'm going to take some of this flocked bush and we're going to cut this into pieces. I'm going to go ahead and take the pine cone off. I don't want the pine cone. So this one is CVS 024. You can keep the pine cones if you want them, but I don't want the pine cones for this project, so I'm just going to cut them off. You could save the pine cones for another project, but if you're like me and have been saving them, I now have like 2 boxes of pine cones that I'm probably not going to use, so I'm just going to throw those away. And I think I'm going to cut these. I'm trying to see if I want to cut it into 2 sections or 3 sections. I think we're going to do 3 sections. So I'm taking this and I'm going to cut right here. That gives us 1 piece. Now we have 3 more little pieces that are sticking up. So I'm going to cut right above or below that. So that gives us another piece of 3. And then we have our last piece that also has 3. So we ended up getting 3 pieces out of that 1 pick. So I'm going to start with the longer piece. Now I don't need it that long, so let me cut it down just a little bit. I'm going to give it a little bit of a bend, and we're going to slide it right down in this area. It's kind of behind the bow, kind of covering back there. So I like that placement. Okay. We're going to do the same thing with one of our other pieces. We're going to come out to the side underneath the bow. So now that's kind of filling in behind the bow, kind of giving us some coverage right here in the center. We're going to do the same thing on that side of the bow. So let's get our last piece. Just dipping it in my glue pot. And we're going to go right in the side. So we've done the top, both sides. Now we need to work on the bottom. Okay, so let's get another piece. I'm going to cut the pine cones off again. Sometimes they really get these pine cones on there. There we go. Okay. And then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to cut into 3 pieces. So I'm going to take my top 3, cut it, and I'm going to have the next 3 pieces, and I'm just going to cut right in between there. Don't be afraid to cut these picks up. When I first started, I thought you had to use the whole pick just as it was, and as I've been going, you realize you can cut these up, get lots of different pieces, and use them as good filler. So now we've got our longer piece. I'm going to go ahead and cut some of this off because I know I don't need it that long. Okay, so let's take this longer piece and let's go slide it right up under the bottom of this bow. Okay, that's a good placement. So let me put some glue on it. Just sliding it right up under there. So now we want to fill in off right here to the side where this little hole is. So I'm going to take another one of our pieces. We're going to come to the side. Okay, now we have a hole right here, right before we did that little roller coaster. So I'm going to take some of this and just fill in that hole. So we're just using this bush as kind of a filler, and then we're going to have some other stuff going in here too. So that'll all help kind of fill it in. Okay, so we filled in this section around the bow pretty good. I do see a spot on this side right here I want to fill in, and I see a hole right up in here that I want to fill in. So I'm going to take this last bush, cut it up again, and we're going to use it to fill in a couple other spots before we start adding our poinsettia flowers, or poinsettia, however you say that, flowers, and then we've got some berries we're going to add. Okay, so same thing, we're going to cut it into 3 pieces. Taking my top 3 leaves, cutting it, my next 3 leaves, and I say leaves, stems, whatever you want to call them, cutting it. Okay, and then we have our longer piece, which I know I don't need that long stem, so I'm going to cut some of that down. So I've got a hole right here, sort of towards the inside of this grapevine. I want to fill in right there. Hope you guys can see that. So I'm going to take and just slide that right in this section and kind of fill in that hole right there. And we'll just kind of intertwine some of that together. Okay. Now I have a hole on this side right here. I'm going to take and add this right there. Make sure it's getting in my grapevine really good. Okay, and then I have this one last piece. I think I want to use it to fill in down right up underneath on this side. I'm going to make sure that stem is pretty short. So let me get a little bit more glue on there, and I'm going to make sure I get it really good down in that grapevine. And to stick it kind of straight down in there. Make sure that glue catches really good. There we go. I think I'm going to go in and just add just a tad more glue just to make sure that holds, because it was a short stem. Okay, so this is what we have so far, turning out super pretty. So we pretty much got all of the greenery in. Now let's add our sort of star of the show. I have these beautiful rose gold poinsettia flowers. I got these from Hobby Lobby. Hobby Lobby has their Christmas 50% off right now, so I picked up a few of them. So let's get our placement. I'm gonna have them kind of go sort of one down here where we had our roller coaster down at the bottom. So one's gonna kind of sit down here. I'm gonna have one kind of sit at that spot right there. And let's get our, I already have it. Let's get our third one. We may do 4, let's see. I think we're gonna put this one sort of right up in this area here. So it's gonna look kind of like that. I'm trying to debate if I want a 4th one, let's see. Typically I like to work in threes, but occasionally you'll find a design that needs more than three. So let's just look and see what it looks like. If we slid one right up kind of what do you guys think? I think that's pretty. So let's go with 4. We're gonna go with 4 flowers. So let's just start putting them in. Let me make sure all my leaves are turned like I want them. Okay. I'm gonna give this bend just a little bit of a stem. I want the flower kind of sitting up. I don't want it laying flat. So I'm gonna kind of give it a bend. So when I go into this grapevine, that flower is like standing at attention. Okay. There we go. Okay, let's add this one in here. Same thing. I'm going to keep it at a bend. That way it's not laying flat, it's standing up. It's front and center. Yeah, that was hot. Watch your fingers when you put these in. Do as I say, not as I do, right? Glue gets hot. Okay, this leaf is giving me fits. I want it to stay pretty side up. There we go. Okay, so basically we're gonna have 2 up top, 2 up down at the bottom. And we're gonna have some berries going in, kind of in, filling in other places. So take the tag off of this one. I think I'm gonna have it go right sort of in between and just kind of hang over like that. So I'm gonna have it go up kind of underneath this little roller coaster. We're gonna have it go in there and then we'll fan it out. Okay. Now let's add our last one, again keeping that bend. I'm adding a nice generous amount of glue. Be careful when you stick it in so you don't burn yourself like I did a while ago. And sticking it in that grapevine. We're just gonna weave it through. You can weave some of the greenery through it, kind of like it's growing in that greenery. Make sure our leaves are up. And that leaf, look at that, just came right off of that. So that's okay. It was just glued to the back of the stem. So I'm gonna add a little bit of glue to this stem. And then we're going to attach it back very carefully so we don't burn our fingers. Okay. So this is what we have so far. Super pretty. You could totally stop there if you wanted to, but we're gonna keep going. I'm gonna add some berries. So I'm going to bring in a little bit of the gold. And we're going to add these berries. I also got these at Hobby Lobby. So I'm going to take these and pull it apart and get 3 pieces. So we're going to get 3 pieces out of it. Start at the bottom. We're going to add a piece just down in the bottom, kind of to the side down there. We're going to add that. some coming straight down, kind of giving a little bit of length. It's gonna be hard. This design is getting big, so it's gonna be hard for me to keep it all in the camera view, but I'm gonna add this straight down right above where our tails are. So it kind of goes with our tails down there. So it's gonna go straight down and it's gonna flow with our tails. Okay, now we're going to take this other piece. We're just going to start kind of working our way in and out of the wreath with the berries. I'm going to put one right in between these two poinsettias. I'm going to add that berry there. If we have enough, I'll come back and add some more to the outside. We'll fill it in, but I want to make sure we have enough. I think we're going to have plenty. Especially since we're getting 3 pieces out of one bush. Let me see how many I have. Yeah, we should have enough. Okay. So I'm going to add one on the side, just so it doesn't look like we forgot what's going on down here at the bottom of the wreath. I'm going to add one down there. Okay, I'm going to go in between the bow here and this poinsettia, and we're going to add one right in this area. So we're just filling in some of these spaces with some of these berries. Okay, I'm going to go on the side again. We're still facing down because we haven't got to the point of the bow yet, so our berries are going to the downward position. We're starting to get at the bow section, so now stuff's going to start going up. Okay, let's get another bush. Getting into 3 pieces. And if you didn't have berries, you could use any type of pick that you wanted. So now I'm going to go kind of straight out to the side, so that we've got, so we don't, because our wreath is going this way, right? We don't want to not put anything right here and kind of have like this hole. So we're going to add straight in and out. Now we're going to add one to the inside over here. We're going to start going up now with our berries. So I'm going to add one right in there, right above the bow, in between the bow and this poinsettia. Okay, now let's go back to the outside. I've got a hole right here above the bow. So let's add one right in there. Turn this around so we can work on this section together. Let me get another piece. I know this is a big design, guys, and I know some of it's not always going to be in the camera view, and I apologize for that, but I figured having it from this view going down, you could see kind of what I was doing, versus the other way, you might not be able to see quite as much what I was doing. So doing the best I can to keep it in view for you. Okay, so we left off right up here. Now I'm going to put one underneath, kind of right underneath there, making sure it's going into the grapevine, which it's getting stuck on something. There we go. Okay, now let's go to the outside. This is a shorter piece, so let's stick it out to the outside over here as well. There we go. I'm going to go to the inside now over here. I'm going to give the inside some love. I'll probably go back with one of those and give the inside on this side some love as well. Just want to make sure we're going to have enough pieces to get all the way around. Okay. Some berries going there. I'm going to go back over here to the inside and give a little bit of love to the inside of this side over here. Making sure I get up into that grapevine, which sometimes it can get tricky. There we go. Okay, and then our last piece, we'll stick at the end on this side. So we had one here, we're going to go diagonal, okay? Okay, so now we have our berries all the way around. I think we're done. Let me take a look and see if there's anything else I want to add. Yeah, I do have these pretty, trying to see if I want to add these or not. I think we will. I think let's add a couple of these little clusters. So these little clusters came from Hobby Lobby as well. I'm just going to add a few of these. Again, I'm keeping a bend on the stem so that we can create some height on those. So I'm going to put one there. Let's put one right here to fill in this kind of hole. And maybe one down on this side. Okay, so we've got one there. Let's do one over here. Okay. Now let's see. Got one there, there. So let's put one like right in this area where we had the zip tie for that roller coaster. We can kind of tuck it in there and that'll hide that kind of right in that area right there. Okay. I'm thinking maybe one more right over here. Just to kind of finish this off down here at the bottom. Yes. There we go. So I think we are done. So I will hang it up, fluff our little bows out, make sure everything is nice and pretty, and take some pictures for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this grapevine tutorial. Until next time, bye guys.